Hey everybody, I figured I'd make a video to show you some of the basics about making a Google Form quiz. So the first thing of course is log in, make sure you're logged in, and then you can click on Google Forms, or something really easy to do is just do forms.google.com. So when you get there, there's a couple options that pop up and they look interesting, but I found the easiest thing to do and the best is just to go ahead and click blank quiz. Alright, so blank quiz comes up, and what you can go ahead and do is first thing is you want to make sure you click required, so that each of the questions you have are required. That way somebody taking it can't just get out of answering it. And the first question I always do is put the name. You also want to make sure that you have 0 points, because you want to make sure nobody loses points for spelling their name wrong or something like that. Next thing would be homeroom. Could be a group thing, like let's say you're doing homeroom, different homerooms like that, or you might say orange team, red team, whatever you're doing like that. And again, click required. Now at this point, it auto generates like a point spread. So for that kind of thing, of course, you want to go ahead and click the edit question thing, and then down here put it to 0. You can go back to being able to look at it. And this answer key thing pops up for each question. So as you're going through and adding questions, you change what the selected answer is, and that's how it auto grades. You also want to make sure over here that you go ahead and you put in the name of a quiz, so we're just going to call it demo quiz. And then up here, it will actually save up here as well, so you want to click that as demo quiz. Now to make a question come directly below the last thing you just did, you have to click on the most recent question. So you click on this question right here, and then over here you have a couple options. You have the plus sign where you add the question. You can also add like a title or description that would show what's coming next. You can have an image that you would add if it's something that's going to be coming up, YouTube video, or you could also just click for a new section. Yeah, but that's the point where you would go ahead and you would say, like, let's do question number 1. Maybe what was George Washington's middle name? And then you have a couple options here. You have multiple choice that they default you to based on the question I wrote. You also have short answer or paragraph. Short answer is just, like it sounds, it's a small box. If you click on paragraph, what it will do is it will go ahead and make the box bigger, so as they're typing they can see more of what they're writing. Check boxes is what it sounds like if you have a question that has more than one possible choice. And then of course drop down would be like something maybe for a homeroom or something where you only want them to see one of the things at a time. And as you're doing this, what's really nice is you can go ahead up here, and the I is for preview. So you could click preview just to see what it's going to look like. So for example, we made the homeroom question a drop down. When you click that, see it says choose. So it would just pop it up only if you click choose. And you can just X out of that preview as you like. Okay, so back to this here. So we have what was George Washington's middle name? Well, we're going to say Reginald is a possibility. We could also say Sam. We could say Thomas. Or we could say no middle name. And actually it's the last, it's no middle name, so I want to make sure I click required. One other interesting option over here is these 3 dots. You could actually go ahead and click shuffle option order. And this is something sometimes I might use if I'm concerned that one kid might look at another kid's paper or something like that, so it would actually change the order of the answers, possible answer choices. But for this, again, we want to make sure that the computer is going to auto-grade it, so we go ahead and click the answer key. And on answer key, then we would say, okay, the right answer is no middle name. So see, it pops that green arrow, the green checkbox, and then you know that, that's the right answer. The other thing I guess I would suggest, I saw somebody else do this, is instead of just making each question 1 point, if you have an even number, like let's say of 20 questions, then you can make them 5 points each. And that way, when it brings up the score and the students see the score later, it'll go ahead and it'll show them out of 100 points, 20 times 5. Okay, so that's that right there. The next thing you can do is kind of play with it a little bit. Like you have the settings here, so you can check and you can actually make sure it collects the email addresses. You can limit it to 1 response, and that's really good if it's a quiz. You don't want the kids coming through and going at it again. You definitely don't want to make sure you enable edit after submit so they can't change what they're doing. And you probably don't want to let them see the summary responses from the other students. Presentation, I find, doesn't really make a big difference here. Confirmation message, you could put something there, something nice to show that you've collected their answer and something like that. Quizzes, of course, this it shows that it is a quiz. You could have the score be released immediately, which is what I like to do. Or if you want, you can go through, especially if you have some short answer questions, and you could manually review it, and then you could email out the score once you actually have it. All right, so that would be like a multiple choice question. Now, if you were going to do something that's like a short answer question, like you could say blank is the capital of New Jersey. Now, this is something that does fit well for multiple choice, but let's say you just don't want to kind of even give them the possibility of figuring it out based on your multiple choice. Well, you could go ahead and make that short answer, and then down here in the answer key, this is where you could add the correct answer. And you do have to sort of think about what they might put, you know, like if you have the capital Trenton with capitalized words, you could also lowercase it, because if you just do the first one here and you have a student who does not capitalize Trenton, then the computer actually will mark it wrong. And that's something you don't want to allow. And again, you can change the point value, make sure it's like that. Go back to edit question. And that's kind of the deal with that. Over here with the three dots, you have a couple possibilities. You could go ahead and make a copy and give it to somebody else. You can get a pre-filled link, which would enable you to make certain selections. Like let's say you already want to select that it's 410 homeroom. So you could do that and then click get pre-filled link and send that link to your students. You could also add collaborators. So you go ahead and put the email addresses of the people down here that you want to work on it with you. The problem with that so far is that there isn't like a can comment or can view only possibility like you have with different documents. So if you do this, you can give them full ability to change anything. And now over here we have our settings thing. Oh, actually we went through that. What's the next one? This one. This is kind of interesting, the color palette. As a color palette, you can literally just change the color. Real simple things are like this. What I like to do is go down here into this bottom right, because this is where you can actually get some kind of cool looking things in order for it to spice up what you're looking at. And again, let's look at the preview to see what it looks like. So as they do the quiz, that's the thing on the top. You can also find some interesting ones that like have some movement. I don't know if I can pull it one up right here. Maybe sports and games. Yeah, here you go. So you can kind of see there's some movement here. Some of the kids like find that fun or interesting as they're looking at it. And that's pretty much the basics. The last thing I guess I would say is you also have the possibility of add-ons, and that's something I'm kind of working with now. And I guess I'll make an advanced video that deals with a lot more complex stuff later. Before I move on, though, I definitely should say that when you actually have the quizzes, what will happen is you'll get a response thing. And this is where once there is a response, it will show you all the details about it. It'll give you some pie charts and some things like that. And if you actually want to see it in a spreadsheet, which is kind of easier, then you can click the green button here, which is the create a spreadsheet, and it'll go ahead and create that. And then once that comes through, you'll have all these things populated. And again, I guess in a future video, I'll show you some cool things you can do to kind of group students that might be having a lower score, like put them into the low group, the middle group, and the high group, and that sort of deal. But at this point, I think I'll end there. So let me know if you have any questions.